Hello, I'm Charles Gross. Welcome to Two on the Aisle. Tonight we open our vault for interviews with Gwen Verdon, Gerard Alessandrini, Phyllis Newman, the Sherman Brothers, and a new interview with Richard Humphrey, producer of the ride. We start with a 1994 interview I did with Gwen Verdon at the 10th Annual Mr. Abbott Awards. And I'm standing here with Gwen Verdon, who is receiving the President's Award tonight. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Well, now, when you see someone like Chitty Rivera dancing on Broadway, do you think, gee, I'd really like to be doing that? Or do you think, gee, why is she still pushing it that way?
I think both. No, but she's so fabulous. It's wonderful. I don't want to be on Broadway. I'm much older than Chitty. But
you don't look it.
I have a lot of fun teaching young people and coaching them, so.
Is there anything that you've done either on or off stage that you'd really like to be remembered for?
That's up to the people that saw it. I mean, there are certain things I'm extremely fond of, but... Hi, Jerry Zachs.
Oh, boy.
Whoa.
I think they're giving him an award here, too,
yes,
tonight.
Yes, they are. He gets the Abbott Award.
Right. You actually worked with George Abbott many times.
Yes. Oh, wait. They'll interview you.
Yes.
Good to see you. Thank you. Congratulations to you.
And what was it like working with him?
It was so many years ago. I mean, it was terrific, but he was so much into not the frills and the exotic of the theater, but just learn your lines, get out there and do it, which is a wonderful point of view.
Did anyone dare call him George? Was there anyone who ever
Yes, Bob Fosse.
Well, he was very nervy, I guess.
He was very irreverent of everything.
Well, he was so good he could be.
Yeah. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye. It's
been over 30 years since Gerard Alessandrini began thumbing his nose at the Great White Way with Forbidden Broadway. A few years ago, Leslie Hoban Blake and I got to speak with him about Forbidden Broadway and Spamilton, which was his answer to, well, take a guess.
It's a big mashup, that's what I call it. It's a big mashup of Hamilton and Broadway, which is what I think it's about. It's about how Hamilton affected Broadway and what it does when you compare it to other shows. So I've mashed up Gypsy and Man of La Mancha and Sweeney Todd and everything.
But it has the most spine. Spamilton has the most spine of a book of any show that you've done, because the others are usually a bit of this, and I happen to have Forbidden Broadway in my hand, but they're usually a bit of this and a bit of that, and it's always a pastiche.
Right.
But this has a beginning, a middle, and an end that revolves around.
Right. There's no blackouts like Hamilton. It just keeps evolving. Yeah. And a lot of the actors who are wonderful only play one character. For example, Dan Rosales only plays Lin-Manuel Miranda. So he's that, and it's a very weird journey he takes, but it is a journey.
You know, you've spoofed anybody who was anybody on Broadway over the last 30 years. So the question I've always wanted to ask, why haven't you been shot?
Oh, you know, sometimes I think about that. I thought, oh my God, what if like Bernadette's friends put a hit out on me? I've thought of that. Please don't get any ideas. But
but aren't they instead banging on your door to say, please put me in the show?
Sometimes that's happened. You know, I remember in the original show, Carol Channing wasn't in it, and she wanted to be in it. You know, she didn't want to have a drag man do it, but she wanted a nice girl to do it, which we did, and she liked that. And she
but being in your show is such a badge of honor.
I think it's because we're just spoofing the hits. You know, you know what I mean? We're not really spoofing the big flops because people don't know them. So if you're in the show, it's the flip side of winning a Tony. If you're that famous and you've done something that notable, then you get a number in Forbidden Broadway. So you have to have accomplished a lot.
And a picture up in Sardi's. It goes together,
yes, That's right. That's right.
Now there is one actress who just seems to make it in. I'm not sure if every version, but almost every version. Patti LuPone.
Patti LuPone.
Just something about her that you...
Well, first of all, I really love her. I mean, you know, what about it? Well, she's a fine actor, takes herself very seriously, you know, incredible chanteuse, incredible voice, and of course her career has been incredible with ups and downs, like the whole Sunset Boulevard scandal from 20 years ago when Glenn Close did it on Broadway. I'm sorry to bring that up, Patti. But you know, I just love her, and she's been in all types of musicals, and she always sings, you know, wonderful songs, whether it's from Company or Can. Remember she did on Encore's version of
I
Can
saw
Can.
that, yeah.
So, and then of course, she's got her shows like Evita. So she's, but that's right. We've spoofed her more than any other actress in.
Well, except Cheetah and
No,
even
yeah,
more?
yeah,
Okay.
no. I mean, yes, we've done
He
Cheetah.
knows his stuff.
Yeah, we've done Cheetah. No, I must have done like, 25 Patti LuPone numbers.
But yet, when I came, now I just saw the show again yesterday. Charlie and I saw it way back in the beginning when it first opened. But there is no Patti.
There is no Patti.
No Patti.
Yes, we're giving her a rest.
But you updated and you put in
Glenn Close.
Glenn Close.
Right, in Sunset Boulevard.
Sunset Boulevard.
As a mad actress begging for tickets and right on
Well,
Broadway.
her show's closing soon, so she'll have time.
And then I'm thinking of doing a flip of that, like Glenn Close is begging Lin-Manuel for tickets to Hamilton, and then Liza Minnelli begs for tickets to Hamilton, and Audra begs for tickets. Then I think I want to have Bette Midler come out, and then Lin-Manuel beg her for tickets
that
to
would
Hello
be
Dolly.
adorable.
So we may see that
Are
soon.
you giving
That
away
would be a
something?
nice
We have
turnaround.
Is this a preview? We just heard it here
I
first.
think so. I was just thinking
wow,
of it today
that's
that might be
great
a fun
idea.
thing
I love
to do.
That.
Is there any composer or actress or Broadway personality that you wanted to do, but for some reason couldn't?
Gee, I think I got them all.
Literally.
Well, I wish, I mean, we are in the 21st century, so I have to spoof things like, Phantom and Cats and all that, and of course now Lin-Manuel and Hamilton. But I do wish sometimes that I was back in the 60s and I could have had a crack at spoofing The Happy Time or something, something like that that's completely forgotten.
I only
Some of
know
those
that from
musicals
the
from that
album.
era,
And there were some very good ones and
Yeah.
some very bad ones that you would have had a lot of fun
And
with.
some of them were like also rans that are still very interesting. And,
But the fact that you still have that Phantom is still there.
Yes, that's true.
That Cats has come back.
The Cats
I
came
mean,
back, yeah.
really, that it's prophetic. You you just.
Well, I touch upon that in Spamilton because it's so cyclical. They come back, and actually sometimes they come back too many times, and you go like, enough, revival of the revival of the revival of something.
Well, Les Mis, which
Les
you
Mis,
did each
yes.
time,
you, you had your original, then you had to revise that
Yeah.
because it had been done so
And I
many
even think we went a bridge too far with that. I think it came back once too many times, and we spoofed it once too many times. If you put all my Les Mis numbers together, I think they'd be almost as long as Les Mis.
You're right. You did a wonderful thing in this one, though. You did a Mashables. And so you
Yes.
had American Psycho in Paris. which
Yes.
I fell
yes,
off my chair when I heard
The
that.
Lion King and I.
The Lion King and I.
Avenue Crucible.
Yes.
Right. I think I'm working on Amelie and the Chocolate Factory, and
that's-
so I get a few new ones coming in.
That's cruel.
Now, a little known fact, you actually performed in Forbidden Broadway when it first came out.
Of course, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Are you in here by any
Do you
chance?
miss
Yeah,
that?
this picture me in there. Yeah.
Do you miss
Well, it's funny you should bring that up because I hadn't performed in 17 years, and the gentleman who plays our king in Spamilton had to go away for the weekend, so I played the king this weekend, and I said, "Oh my God, I haven't been on stage in 17 years."
Oh, but you didn't
my
do it
voice was
Sunday.
a
I
little
missed
rusty,
you.
but
Oh.
but then I thought, "Oh, this is fun. I think I want to do a Nickelback or write a show for myself." So originally, I wanted to do. I was a young man, so I thought, I want to spoof Yul Brynner and Rex Harrison, and those were the guys that were on Broadway then, in their revivals, of course.
Yes.
So I used to do it, and I did it with Nora Mae Ling, who was a wonderful performer originally, and she was a great wit, and she's no longer with us, unfortunately, but she was a great light, and I wrote the show for her and myself to showcase us as performers. But then I realized, I can update this show and keep it going, and then came the British invasion, so I couldn't resist that.
Did you have any idea it would go on
No.
forever?
No.
That you would go on
No.
forever?
I thought I was going to get a better job eventually, but I thought I was going to get something on TV or film, but I didn't.
what
but I've
would
had fun.
What would your idea of a better job be at this point?
I know. No, it's great because I'm sort of my own boss,
Sort
At
of.
least artistically, I'm my own boss. I've done some writing for hire, and that's hard when somebody says, we like that line, we don't like that line. In this one, I can just write what I need to write, what my vision is, what I want to say, and then let the audience tell me if I can keep that line or not.
Well, as long as you keep
so that's
writing him,
good.
we'll keep coming to see him.
Well, thank you, Leslie. Thanks.
Where did the name Forbidden Broadway come from?
Well, it was just before we even did the show, I used to write these parody songs, as many young people do, and keep them in a folder, and sing them to friends at a party. So I just had a folder called Forbidden Broadway, which meant, which kind of meant like, Forbidden Broadway is forbidden to me because I'm such a naughty, out of the box performer. And in a sense, it has been, because I still haven't made it to Broadway. So, but I guess 47th Street Theater with Spamilton is probably as close as I got, but that's okay.
And we should point out, you
yes.
can, if you haven't seen the show off Broadway, you can get the CD of it.
It just came out.
And
the vinyl.
Vinyl.
The vinyl is back. Hamilton came out with vinyl, so we weren't going to be outdone. We did a vinyl. And, you know, with the vinyl comes with a download card, so you essentially are getting a digital copy for your iTunes library. And then the CD, which this is, I've had 12 Forbidden Broadway CDs, 1 Forbidden Hollywood CD, and this is my 14th. This is Spamilton, and it was fun to do. And this the original cast are all magnificent. They were young, brilliant performers that gave, you know, 1,000% of their heart and dedication to the show.
One of them was discovered, Nora Shell.
Yeah, Nora Shell is also nominated for a Drama Desk Award.
Right.
Yeah, she's a great, great talent.
But is this your first vinyl? The first time?
No, because the Forbidden Broadway was so old. That's 1982. that was like one of the last shows on vinyl.
I think I have a cassette deck, a cassette version of that.
Yes, we have cassettes of those too, right?
Those
may be gone.
Wait till those come back.
Yeah, they still play.
Who knows? So, vinyl is back, Gerard is back, and Broadway is better for it. Gerard Alessandrini, thank you so much.
Thank you,
it's been
Charlie.
a pleasure having you.
Pleasure having you.
Thank you, Leslie.
Phyllis Newman, who passed away this September, was known both as the Tony Award-winning actress of Subways Are for Sleeping and as the wife of lyricist Adolph Green. In what may have been her last interview, Leslie Hoban Blake and I spoke with her at a revival of Subways last season at the York Theatre.
Well, we're here with the Mad Woman of Central Park West herself. It's Phyllis Newman.
On the evening of the revival of a musicals in Mufti version of Subways Are for Sleeping, which won her Tony.
You were in the original version.
There's only one version.
There was only one version.
Until now.
That's right. That's right.
And you, your husband wrote the lyrics.
Yeah, he and Betty Comden wrote the lyrics in the book. And Julie Steiner, of course, wrote the music.
And you wore a towel the whole show.
That's right. Much shorter than that one.
Really?
I got to tell them it's not short enough. Because it was much more of a threat, you know, if you got a really short towel.
How did you get it to stay on?
Oh, it was made. It had all the stuff on it.
Staples.
What?
Staples, that always works.
Exactly.
What about David Merrick, who one of the most infamous
people? He was rotten. You know?
Okay. Well, why don't we go to your daughter Amanda? She's also a lyricist.
Yeah, she's wonderful. And I saw her last night at the 92nd Street Y. She did something. She wrote it, and then she sang one of the songs. And everybody was wonderful. It was about the lyricists who worked with Leonard Bernstein.
Oh, goodness.
And it was a terrific evening. And she was. She's a very gifted woman. I'm very proud of her.
Is she working on anything now?
Oh, yeah. She's got 2 big shows.
Could we come back to Subways and Miss Newman for a second?
Okay.
If that's okay. I just wondered, you put all these shows, I saw all the scripts, they showed it very cleverly at the top.
Right.
Now, how much of this did you have to do with putting them all together?
Well, I must say with Stuart Ross also, who was wonderful. And the two of us got together and went through scripts. There were tons of them. We picked a few, and we tweaked, as they say, and we cut things, and we put things together. I mean, it's still the show, but we worked on it.
What's difficult material for this particular time, necessarily?
Yeah, it took us time. We really worked it, but he really worked it. He did a wonderful job. Yeah.
Is it very different from the original?
No, not at all.
Not at all.
No.
Obviously, the music is the same. I didn't know if
the score is exactly the same. So is the book. It's just no one would know the difference.
Well, you had a wonderful cast, and it was beautifully directed, and it moved like a dream. So
Absolutely.
you must be very proud.
I'm very happy. I really am, and I didn't know how I'd feel, but I'm very happy about it.
Happy and tired. A proud mama. Thank you so much for staying with us. We really appreciate it.
It's hard to find someone not familiar with the songs of the Sherman Brothers, Robert and Richard, who wrote the scores for Mary Poppins and Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, as well as the pop hit You're 16, You're Beautiful, and You're Mine. It was my privilege to interview the Sherman Brothers right before Chitty Chitty Bang Bang opened on Broadway. You were so busy with Disney projects, from Mary Poppins to the Aristocats, in the 60s. How did you get away to do this? And had Disney ever considered doing this movie?
Well, when Cubby Broccoli asked Disney if he would let us do it, he was thrilled. Walt was beautiful. He said, go, enjoy it, make a good picture.
See, actually, Bob and I were under exclusive contract to Disney, and Cubby wanted to do this joint thing, and Walt's plate was filled. He didn't want to do a joint production. And he was so wonderful, as Bob said, that he gave us permission to do it. And then we went back to Disney, and we kept going, and we did many other pictures. We did Happiest Millionaire and Bedknobs and Broomsticks and other pictures subsequent to Chitty Bang Bang.
Do you miss the Disney studios?
It doesn't exist anymore, really.
Well,
Now it's a big business.
Well, you see, the difference is this. When we worked at Disney, it was for Walt Disney personally. And when Walt Disney died, it became a corporation, a business, and a different personality took over. That's all.
How did you come to write It's a Small World? That was not in a movie. That was, I think, was that for the World's Fair?
Yes, exactly. Walt had an attraction of the Children of the World, sponsored by the bank. And he took us down to WED, where they were marking it up 50%. And he said, see this? And they turned on the music, and it was a cacophony. Each of the groups of kids from different countries were singing their national anthems at once. And it sounded awful.
So basically what he said was he wanted a simple song to talk about unity and understanding between countries and between peoples. And so we wrote It's a Small World kind of in a pressure cooker, because they had everything ready except the music, the soundtrack. And we never dreamed it would become so internationally famous, and we're very pleased about it.
In fact, it's the most played and performed song in the world. Amazing.
And I actually once read that, for better or for worse, Chitty is one of the most copied movies. Not necessarily legally, but one of the most. It has the dubious honor of being one of the most copied movies ever.
Happy?
No, copied. Well, illegally, frankly.
Well, that means a lot of people want it. It's one of those things, you can't control that, but it's a nice feeling to know that people love it. They love it everywhere they go, and the audiences. What's thrilling to us really is in England, every time they hit the main theme of Chitty Bang Bang, everybody starts to clap in rhythm. They've been doing it here in the previews in New York, and we can't believe it, but they're doing the same thing.
We were told that it's the first time that anybody in theater in West End of London or here ever clapped with the premiere.
I was curious, in the original movie, given so many of the Poppins people involved, yourselves, the orchestrator, Dick Van Dyke, was Julie Andrews ever considered for the movie?
Originally she was, but she was involved in a film. She was doing Hawaii in I believe it was in Hawaii. She was doing this film. And
that's where it was.
Yeah, I believe it was Hawaii. And so she just was not available. She would have been great. But we had Sally Ann Howes, who was superb. She's a lovely lady and a great gal. We're very fond of her.
What did you think when you saw the car for the first time? That's got to be certainly one of the most beautiful cars and certainly one of the most unusual. Floats, flies, he even put an automatic transmission into it.
It's amazing. It's an amazing car. It goes forward and backwards, and it goes sideways, and it goes up. Why?
It's what's great about it is the fact that it's the only kind. It's the only one. It's a unique individual car that was created by this character, Caractacus Potts, and he's no crackpot, Caractacus Potts, but it really is a wonderful thing to watch it fly. Now in the movie, you say, well, that's magic, you know that movie magic, but here you're actually seeing this big 1.5-ton thing with 5 people in it flying out over the audience, and you can't believe it. People cry with joy when they see it.
When you saw the movie car for the first time, what was your reaction?
It was thrilling. I wanted to ride in it.
Did you get to?
Yes, oh yes, I did.
Did you ever get to drive it, out of curiosity?
No.
No, that's a big hunk of steel. I wouldn't try that.
I hear it handles like a boat even when it's not one.
Yes.
On that. Now, in the future, I hear that you're planning to bring Mary Poppins to the stage.
It's on the stage in London right now, and Cameron McIntosh produced it, and it's doing beautifully. It's a big smash.
And I believe it's a joint Cameron McIntosh Disney production, and Disney Theatrical is going to be bringing it here with Cameron. And I think it'll be a year yet. It just opened a few months ago, and it's doing incredibly well. It's got great reviews, and it's just going wild over there.
So flying umbrellas, flying beds, flying cars. I sense a pattern here.
It's quite elevating.
Now, unlike most songwriting teams, there's not a distinction of who does the music, who does the lyrics, and you two are brothers. You've obviously known each other all your lives. How do you get past the sibling rivalry?
I think the thing that
50 years.
Yes, I think the way you get past sibling rivalry is if you realize that you didn't do it by yourself. Then you respect the other guy. And that's what it's all about. We both respect each other, and we love each other, you know. But brothers love each other, and they still have rivalries. But I think Bob and I are really mutually grateful that we both did it together.
Finally, we have a new interview with Richard Humphrey, the producer of The Ride. My guest this evening wants to take you for a ride, but not just any ride, the ride. He is Richard Humphrey. He is the president, CEO, and CCO of The Ride.
Thank you, sir. Yes.
That is a very unique New York attraction.
Well, thank you very much. I know you experienced it when I
did.
first was working in the beginning.
I did. We've had a lot of fun. Now, this is basically a bus where you sit sideways.
Call it what you will.
Okay, well...
I like to call it a motor coach. I like to call it a traveling theater. I mean, basically what we have is we have a global patent for the chassis of Prevost motor coaches, which is the Rolls-Royce of buses. And then we have the patent on everything we build on top of that, which includes sideways stadium seating, making the streets of New York the stage.
Okay, and I know a lot of it is supposed to be a surprise, but can you give us an idea of what we see without giving too much away, of course?
Well, the idea of The Ride is you're making the streets of New York a stage, and it's part tour and it's part show. So we have 40 video screens, 3,000 LED lights, surround sound, an integrated experiential delivery digital platform, and the technology to run a Broadway show, basically. And so everything is original. It's an original script, it's original videos. So if you're passing, for instance, Grand Central Terminal, suddenly the screens will light up with original research video on the history of Grand Central Terminal. But in the script, along the way, you discover performance pieces on the street. And sometimes, because New York is so chaotic and wonderful, the audience doesn't know whether it's staged or not. But there are 6 or 7 staged performance pieces along this 4.2-mile route, which takes about, with no traffic or light traffic, 75 minutes, but normally around 90 minutes. We have 3 products that are built on this platform. The Ride, I consider our crown jewel. It's the performance piece. And as you recall, we were nominated for a Drama Desk for Most Unique Theatrical.
You mentioned people don't know if it's planned or spontaneous. I actually remember reading in the New York Times, the diary section, someone said, saw one of your stages and...
The ballerina.
Yes.
The ballerina is very funny. She is staged at Columbus Circle, and if you go on YouTube, you'll see hundreds of videos of just New York tourists who are so astounded that there's a beautiful ballerina dancing around, and they don't even associate her with the ride. So that's part of our marketing. We try to connect those dots.
Now you're expanding on this. There used to be just, I think, The Ride. Now there
was just The Ride.
But there are more now.
Yeah, there was just The Ride, and then there was requests for something that was really much more just plainly tourist, and that would be at a price point that would compete more with Hop On, Hop Off. So I wrote a script for the tour and created all these original videos. It's 90 minutes. It leaves at the Marriott Marquis in the heart of Broadway. We go as far north as the Dakota, discovering landmarks along the way. We have co-marketing with Lincoln Center. We take you in the screens into opening night of Lincoln Center Philharmonic. Then we get up to the Dakota, and we take you to the history of what happened there with John Lennon, and we recreate the original Macy's Day parades from the 30s when you come down Fifth Avenue. So it's that kind of experience. And then the third product that I'm really proud of that we just launched 2 years ago is called the Downtown Experience. And I wanted to dabble in virtual reality. So we added that to our experiential delivery platform. So you can go down there and have this wonderful storytelling in the original videos. But for instance, when you get to the Ellis Island, you're looking out the beautiful bus across the harbor at Ellis Island, then suddenly we say, well, put on your virtual reality headsets and let's experience 1853 aboard an Irish immigration boat.
Okay.
And
so
then
this is
360
new.
degrees, yes.
I'm sorry.
And we have patented a platform, so normally you have to download apps and different experiences depending on your age and experience. This is just put on your headset, we launch them simultaneously, and are able to use surround sound because all 49 headsets are synced.
How did you come to be involved with it? You were not the original producer of it.
The original concept of the ride, which was brilliant, and I cannot take credit for, making the streets the stage. So many people were involved, and it just never worked. And I don't know, it was just, there wasn't a good economic business model. There really wasn't a plan for how you build audience. Because understand, you've been aboard, like, I'm rambling here. Does the audience understand what I'm talking about? You know, what does it mean, part tour, part show? It was very difficult for them to market it and to get a focus. So one of my partners, Dan Rogowski, came aboard, and he has a very deep background from Merlin Entertainment and attractions. So we really started to shift out of the Broadway community, even though we have a lot of Broadway lovers, and really getting into the tour and travel market. Well, the tour and travel market gives you exponentially more. And then I rebuilt all of the assets and launched what was the Charles Fazzino ride, which is the one that you saw. Charles is an internationally renowned 3D pop artist. He does the Olympics, the Super Bowl, the NFL, and we took his 35-year body of work and created a show around that, and the performers were reflected from his paintings, and it really was a very integrated show that captured the presses and the Broadway community. And then that relaunched us. And then the other products have come up by demand. You know, as I said earlier, based on price points.
Right. And your background is, you've had a lot of theater. You were an actor at one point.
I was. I realized that I wasn't destined to be an actor, and so there was a wonderful producer by the name of Burry Frederick who was producing the show, and the great late director Ellis Rabb. And I became Ellis's assistant and learned producing from Burry, which was great because it was her money. And did wonderful Max von Sydow productions and Zoe Caldwell. I just had such a wonderful, firm foundation, and then from there I went on to build my career.
I'm Charles Gross, and Leslie Hoban Blake and I will see you on the aisle.